All right. Thanks so much for joining me, everyone. And for those of you that are catching the replay, I appreciate you for taking the time. This year, I wanted to be a little bit more committed to sharing these amazing oils with everybody because I've had the luxury of using them myself personally for the last 5 years. And I mean, I just feel like they've absolutely transformed my life. For those of you that know me or are getting to know me throughout this group, I absolutely love aiding our bodies to heal and to be well naturally. So these oils have literally just been a complete part of that. I was brought up over in New Zealand, and mum and dad, although my mum was a nurse, she also treated me quite naturally. One of my first memories of going to the doctors was when I was maybe 9 years old, and I ran through the kitchen and I got burnt with a big pot of hot tomato soup. And I remember going to the doctor and him not telling me what he was putting on me or what he was using, and I felt really scared. And I refused to go back to the doctor from that day forward. And so mum actually used aloe vera gel of all things, which is another thing that I absolutely love and use really regularly in my own home now. But mum just used aloe vera gel on me every day, and yeah, I healed up nicely. I've got absolutely no scars, and yeah, I didn't require going back to the doctor. So I've sort of always had natural healing and that in my life. So that's why when I come across these oils 5 years ago, they automatically resonated with me. And I sort of felt that like I just knew the benefits of them, even though I hadn't worked with them before. I remember the smell of lavender from when I was a child, and tea tree and peppermint and things like that. But I hadn't used them, really, really regularly. And so I was actually at the markets, and this lady was selling these beautiful doTERRA oils, and I knew that I needed to go. I needed to get them because I was about to go over to a holiday to Thailand, and I knew that people talk about the water over there, the food quality, the hygiene and stuff like that. And so I knew that I required, having something natural to support my body. So these oils just sort of resonated. So yeah, I bought them, I took them away. I was using them. I didn't really know how to use them, but I was using them in my water daily. So I was using digestion because I did know that was good for the digestive system, very good for supporting calming the whole digestive tract. So for those of you or anyone that you know that has things like bloating, cramping, allergies to food, feels like they get an upset stomach, nausea, diarrhea, constipation, any of these things, we can actually use that digestion oil to support our bodies naturally. And so when I was over in Thailand, although I didn't experience any sickness or anything like that, I was actually using the oils daily just to support my body. Now, at that stage, I didn't know how to use them like I do now, and I wasn't, I don't feel that I was getting the benefits out of them because I was only using them sparingly, and I was also waiting almost as though like I had these oils, but I wasn't really using them, and I was just waiting for something to happen, whether I felt sick or whether I had a rash or whether something happened to me where I could react by using the oils. But what I love about these oils is that we're taking a proactive response to our health, and we're also using like a preventative health, I like to call it. So so that was like my first experiment using them. And because this woman that I bought them from didn't support me in learning how to use them, I sort of didn't use them till their full potential. Then I met another friend who used the oils regularly, and I got to know that. And then I just decided to dive really deep into learning how to use them for myself, which takes me on to the next topic, resources. I just wanted to share with you a few resources. Now, I know for those of you that are using the oils regularly, you've probably got most of them. But like anything in life, we do require investing a little bit of time and effort and energy into learning what it is we want to know. So I think with these oils, for you to get better, I mean, you've got this amazing Facebook group where I do share lots, as much as I can, but I learned a lot from doing my own research on things that were of interest to me. Because I'm not sure if you've ever tried this before, but when you're trying to learn content or you're bringing in, like, learning something new, if you're not interested in it, or it doesn't resonate with you in any part of your life, then it's very difficult to sort of to learn it and soak it all in. Whereas if it's something that you're generally interested in, it's very easy. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, that resonates with me and I can use it in this part of my life, and okay, I'll do that. And you sort of set it out a bit of a plan with it. So that's what I would love to share with you, is these resources, because there's so many different tools. Now, the first one is the app on your phone, and that is called Modern Essentials. So if you haven't got that yet, I highly recommend downloading this app, Modern Essentials, because it's amazing. You can literally type in an oil. So say you've just got the Home Essentials kit and you're not quite sure how to use it. You can actually type in lavender and it will come up with the common primary uses. So it's good for calming the nervous systems, cuts, bruises, scrapes. It's good for relaxation. It's good for the skin, for irritation, for the nervous system. You name it, it's good for it. Lavender is one of those ones that it's just like that. But you can look in your app and learn. And so what I was doing when I was starting out is I'd 10 minutes a night, I would invest in just looking up a few of the oils that I had and how to use them. There's also ways you can mix them, the dilution rates, whether you can use them topically, internally, or just aromatically, and it's very helpful for your learning. Now, I do have the hard copy as well because I love books. And I love sharing these at my workshops because, people can literally say, oh, I've had a bit of a headache. Can we look up oil for headaches? And we can talk a bit more about headaches. But the other great thing about this book is, your app, as well as this book, is you can literally look up anything. So say you're suffering from cellulite, the first thing that comes up. You can look up in here and it gives us a little bit of breakdown on what it is, the oils that we can use to support it, and then how you can use it. And this is exactly the same in the book and the app, so I find that really helpful. Another book here, The Essential Life. Now, I will put these books up and these resources just in a photos for everybody, but this book's amazing. Like, you can look up the specific oils as well. There's loads of DIY recipes, there's loads of food recipes, lime, cilantro, rice, and I just love this because it makes it really easy for us to get used to using the oils in our food and in our DIY products. This other book I've got is The Modern Essentials Living, and this is another one, all your DIY and also loads of recipes as well. Now, this is a really common book, and if you haven't got this one yet, I would recommend it, Emotions and Essential Oils. So there has been a couple of funny stories I shared with you. You can go back and look at this one, but I shared a video in this group on the lime story. I was just really cool to using lime all the time, and there it is. How was the rhyme? That was so funny. Anyway, lime all the time and it rhymes. Anyway, yeah, and I read it and it just resonated with me so much at this point in my life. And then the other day I felt really cool to cilantro of all oils. I mean, like, that's kind of a random one, but it just kept coming up. I kept thinking about it. I really felt like I required it. And when I read the book, the meaning of it, it was just like bang on. So this is like, one thing is that I find it quite difficult in explaining how amazing these oils are really with our bodies, because it's like, use lavender and vetiver and cedarwood and spikenard and juniper berry and marjoram for sleep, because those oils are really amazing for sleep. But people are like, why? But how? It's actually sometimes easier just to be like, well, give it a go and let me know what you think, because they work so powerfully in more ways than we even know, like on physically, emotionally, spiritually. They work in healing our body, and so on and so forth. So I'm just going to open up the floor a second. Does anyone have any questions or anything so far?
The Modern Essentials Living, hello, by the way.
Oh, yeah, welcome.
Does that come as an app as well, not just in the book form?
This food one?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in an app, actually.
Okay, that's all right.
Yeah, and I have downloaded a few other apps that haven't been very good. So I would recommend just doing a bit of research into the apps before you purchase them, because some are good. Like, I know the Modern Essentials, I recommend that to absolutely anyone that's thinking about investing in their oils. But some of the other ones, the other apps, they don't give you what you're looking for, Yep. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions, team? Anything else? No? Okay, I'm going to mute you all, and I'm just going to go into a bit of a testimony about the oils and also a bit of a story, because I'm all about stories. Okay. Okay, bless you. Okay, so, as I say, I have used these oils for ages, and to be honest, I was just using them on really common things like cuts, bruises. I was using them to make all my own cleaning products. I was using them to eliminate toxins from the home. I was using them, if I got sunburned, I was using them. I don't really if I got flu, my immune system was run down. Ever since I've had my oils, particularly since I've been sharing them in the last 2 years, because to be honest, I think I spent the first 3 years learning about the oils and experimenting with them in my own life. But then once I met Nissa, who's my upline, she was running workshops and she was mad about them, and that's all it took was for me to see her so passionate about them, and just her life was just these oils, that it was like, my God, that's what I want for me, because I was already interested in health. It would be my life forever. I love teaching this way with other people. I love sharing the power of natural health with others. I love inspiring others to take control of their health and their life naturally. And I love giving people the power to understand that they have all of this at their fingertips, and that we really don't require the doctors or the medicinal or the pharmaceutical world for really anything. But that brings me on to the next point. So I believe that, many different reasons and things, but I believe that, Sam's accident over in Bali was, for many reasons than one, an opportunity for me to put my years of knowledge and my years of experience and my years of dedication to this way of life to the test. And so, does it seem like there's a bit of a backlay on the screen, or is it okay? Just thumbs up if it's okay. Okay, perfect. All right. So when we were in Bali, long story short, Sam had that accident, and I had actually just spent the last week learning about the healing powers of the body and detoxing my body. And I was with Don and Tyler Tolman, and for those of you that don't know those two guys, I've just been obsessed with them for the last 10 years, because the minute I ever heard Don do a presentation, I completely resonated with every single thing he said. I believe that we have incredible healing powers of our own body. I believe that food is medicine and that we can heal our bodies naturally by eating well. I believe that toxic drugs and pharmaceutical medicine was not the answer, and that in most cases it did more harm than good. And everything that they sort of talked about and shared was exactly what I loved and what resonated with me. So when this opportunity for me to go to Bali for 7 days and do a juice fast with the two of them came up, I was ecstatic. Like, I didn't have the money. I wasn't, but I did not even put two things. I just got that money. I borrowed it because I knew that I required being there. I wouldn't have got that opportunity to go and have 1 second place if I wasn't meant to do that. So I did it. And so I went over and I spent that, and I was just engrossed in this way of life and learning more about the healing abilities of the body and what it requires for us to be well and what it requires for our bodies to heal naturally. And I was just learning because that's my passion and this is what I want to share with the world. So I was like, the more I can take in here, the more I can share when I get home. And so every day we were up and we were learning and we were living and we were experiencing what pure health and what real, what healing the body is. And so, I finished that retreat and on the Saturday, and that day I met up with Sam. He flew over to Australia and we all had a villa in Canggu. So we all went out there to the villa. Now that night I had this dream, and in my dream, it was really weird. I was in this room and I was up the front and I was actually teaching with my friend Mandy. And so Mandy, you all know Mandy now, but at this stage I'd only known Mandy for 7 days. I met her at that retreat. We'd known each other for 7 days. And in the dream, I had a dream that Mandy was with me teaching at the front of this class. And something happened and we all ran out the classroom and along this corridor and down this big set of concrete stairs and along, and then up another big set of concrete stairs. And when I went up the other side, I turned around and this guy had fallen over behind us. And I saw that this guy was having trouble breathing and that he wasn't very well. And so I was like, he needs essential oils, of all things. Of course, in my dream, Anyway, so I was like, he needs essential oils. So I ran back to this classroom and I got the frankincense oil and I got the Easy Air. So Easy Air, we all know the respiratory blend, great for soothing the airways, very, very good for anything, asthma, bronchitis, chest infection, lung condition, coughs, cold, anything to do with the respiratory system, it's amazing. If you are one that suffers from asthma or knows anyone that does, I'd recommend a couple of drops on the hand, rub your palms together, cup it over, make a little hole like so. Breathe in, nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Exhale 10 times, and that can be your puffer. Use that 5 to 10 times a day, regardless of, depending on how bad your conditions are, and cut it back as you feel you require. And that's 10 times better for you than any steroid, any asthma puffer, anything else. And so I knew that this guy needed his Easy Air. Anyway, so I got that 2 oils, raced back to the stairs, and he was gone. And when I got there, my friend Taryn was there, and Taryn's very intuitive. She's a psychic. She, you name it, she does it. A beautiful lady, and she was sitting on the stairs where this guy was, and I was like, where is he? And she's like, he died. And I was hysterical. I was screaming, I was yelling, I couldn't catch my breath, and I felt really uncomfortable. And she was just like, it's okay, it's completely fine. He's, it's okay if people die, it's fine. And so in that time when we were talking, I calmed right down. And then I just was like, I came to terms with the fact that he'd passed away and that death was okay. So that was that dream this night. Anyway, the next day we went out, had a really great day. We hired a scooter. There was numerous times throughout that day we talked about, you know, the fact that we shouldn't really hire a scooter because something could happen, but we didn't really talk too much about it. Anyway, that night we had a big dinner at home. Sam left with his friend on their scooter and they went out. And they went out and they had a beer and they had some food and they went out listening to bands and this and that. And on his way home at 1 a.m, he came off his scooter. Now, I didn't find out about it until 8 o'clock or about 8:20 in the morning. And I woke numerous times that night, checked my phone, called him, texted him, never heard anything. And I didn't really worry because one, he's not a big drinker, and two, he loves his music. So I just thought, well, he probably caught up with his mates. They've found some other friends. They've found a great band or, you know, like trance music he's into, and he's down there underground, can't hear his phone, having a good time. I didn't worry. The funny thing is that it wasn't planned, but that night, that Sunday night, the day after, Mandy ended up staying. She texted me and was like, what are you up to? And I was like, nothing, just come and stay. She came and stayed at my house. And anyway, so during the night, I woke up, and we got up in the morning, and Mandy's like, where's Sam? And I was like, I don't know. I've tried calling. I tried calling his friend he was with, couldn't get hold of him. Anyway, we sat down out the back, did our meditation and stuff, and then I got up and I had this missed call from his friend, and then a text message saying, Sam's in hospital, quick, you've got to get to this hospital. So I just was like, Mandy, Sam's in hospital. I walked out the front of the villa with Mandy, down this long pathway like the corridor in my dream, down the concrete steps like the stairs in my dream, looked up and Taryn was sitting right there. And I walked over and I grabbed my essential oils and I was like, Sam's had an accident. I need my lavender and my frankincense. It's giving me goosebumps talking about it because it was just like how it all happened is just freaky. Anyway, I just remained so calm. I didn't get upset. I didn't worry. I didn't stress or anything. I remained calm. And on the way there, I was like, I'll just check the time. Okay. On my way there, I was like thinking to myself, oh no, it's his head. Something's happened to his head. And I was really worried because I was like, you know, more stuff can go wrong with the head. And I was like, no, it's the leg. And as I was thinking this, his friend rang and was like, Dana, I'm just ringing to let you know that, you know, it's pretty bad and it's his face. He's got head injuries. I was like, I knew it. So I still remained really calm. I got to the hospital. I saw him laying in the bed. He had blood all over his face, dirt all over his body, no clothes on. They'd cut them all off. And I lathered him in frankincense all over his feet, all over his chest, all over his head, and lavender. Literally neat all over his body. And then I stood there and I did Reiki on him because Reiki is energy, healing energy. And I believe this isn't anything to do with the oils, but one thing I'm wanting to promote this year is a way of life and to help you guys get into this way of life because, yeah, it's just so much more than we can comprehend. And these oils are so much a part of it. I've just got to turn on the light. Won't be a second. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, anyway, so I lathered him in the oils, did Reiki on him, and then we decided to move him from this hospital to the other hospital. And I went with him, stayed with him, did Reiki the whole way. And then, yeah, when we got to the hospital, he hadn't had any drugs. He hadn't had anything because over there they don't give you drugs or anything unless they get the money. So obviously there was nobody there. There was nobody to talk to, so they didn't know how they were going to get the money. So they didn't give him anything. So he was very much, he doesn't remember any of it. But yeah, we got into the other hospital, found out what was wrong. He ended up spending the day in ICU. I was using the oils on him all the time, frankincense and lavender. And by then he was hooked up to every drug you could imagine. But yeah, so we just had to keep waking him up every 20 minutes to make sure that he was conscious, that he was still conscious. And then we talked to, he had to go in for brain surgery, his face reconstructed, and also a broken clavicle. He had air on the brain, and he also had shards of his brain that had punctured his skull. Shards of his skull had punctured his brain. So anyhow, we went in, he went in, had the surgery and stuff like that, and that was fine. I went home that night, and the next day they woke him. They kept him in an induced coma until lunchtime that next day, and I came in as they were bringing him out of that. And so that next day, I just took in more of my oils. I had oils with me, and I literally just was putting frankincense on his feet, lavender and frankincense on his face every few hours. He was in ICU for 3 days, but I've got a photo 3 days after his accident. So his accident was on the 15th, and 3 days later, there was absolutely no bruising on his face whatsoever. And the nurses and the doctors and everyone that was there, they couldn't believe it. And we had this conversation. They were like, we have never, ever seen. There was no swelling at all on his face. They said, we have never, ever seen anything like this, like healing like this before. And they were talking to me about the oils, and I was just like, yeah, this is what I use, and they're incredible. The amazing thing is, and I know that it would probably be different here in Australia and in New Zealand and, maybe even in America, because the system's a lot more, it's very much black and white, it's this way, not that way. And so I know you could diffuse oils in the hospitals over here, but, for the likes of where I was in Bali, when they were opening up his cuts and dressing all his wounds and stuff, I was like, nah, sorry, you're not using antiseptic cream on his cut. I'm literally dropping frankincense neat into that wound. And they were like, what is that? And I said, listen, that is a toxic cream. He's getting so many drugs in through his IV cords at the moment. This here is completely safe. I'm doing it, and I trust it. And they were like, okay, and let me do it. Anyway, long story short, because there's so much detail, but he ended up being in hospital for 5 days. He didn't walk, or 6 days. He didn't walk for 5 days. So he ended up getting very bad fluid retention. So all of his legs were swollen and that. So what I was actually doing is I took some notes just before I was reading over. I found this a few weeks ago. I'd actually forgotten about it. But what I did is I took this diary with me, and I wrote out about when we got home from the hospital, and I wrote out about how he slept at night. I wrote out how he was feeling. I wrote out the drugs that he was given. I wrote out the oils I was using with him and the food that I was feeding him. It was crazy. Another thing that was, that would help me from my retreat, but also helped me a lot, I believe, just in my knowing and understanding, was the food at the hospital. He was on a liquid diet for 6 days. And the options that he was getting when they were giving him the food, I was with him every minute he was awake at the hospital, because I didn't know what they were going to do to him when he was on his own. And I really wanted to know what they were doing as well. Because me, I'm probably a bit different than you and everybody else, but I don't really trust hospitals, because I believe that they over-drug, they overprescribe. If you're like, I've got a fever, okay, well, let's just give you this antibiotic, because that antibiotic will probably stop that fever. It'll mask the symptoms of that fever, but it's adding to the toxicity of the body. And that's something that I don't believe. But in saying that, I did not say no to any of the drugs that he was on for the first 6 days, because I was in hospital, I had no idea what really was going on in his body, and I just felt if I could support him with the oils as well, then I was doing my best. But one thing I knew I had control over was the food, because the options for his liquid diet was coffee, tea, cartoned milk, cartoned chocolate milk, cartoned apple juice with preservatives, numbers, all sorts of things, bone broth, tomato soup, and vegetable broth. And those were the options. And I just said to the lady, we all know, and is fruit and vegetables are the most healing things that you can feed your body. So if you're sick or your body requires healing, there is no way you want to be putting a toxic coffee or tea or apple juice or cartoned milk, the number one inflammatory thing for the digestive tract, which is being poisoned at the moment by the amount of drugs, that contains no nutrients because it's pasteurized and homogenized and in a carton. And I could go on. And I was just like, to these guys, nah, this is not okay. I was like, I'm so sorry, but I'm not feeding Sam any of this. His body requires only the best food to heal. So I'm going to bring in my own juices and smoothies. And they were like, okay, that's fine. So for the first day I did that, and he didn't eat a lot at all, but it was just mango and banana pureed up with coconut water. Coconut water is the most hydrating thing that can nourish the cells. So I just gave him little bits of that. And so after that, they actually made him juices, and they were making him pawpaw and watermelon juice every day. And then he was also having some bone broth, which I didn't really agree on, only because of the production of the animals over there isn't the best. The conditions of the land is very, very toxic. And so if they're boiling down the bones of that, which is where everything is, then there's a lot of lead and there's a lot of, different sorts of things in there, metals and things that aren't ideal. But he sometimes had that and sometimes had vegetable broth. So yeah, anyway, long story short, I was using the oils and everything like that on him very regularly while he was in hospital. And one of the nurses actually came in and said to me, oh, you know what, we did a study on essential oils in this hospital where we used lavender as a pain reduction. So we tested it on people with broken arms. She said it obviously not on incidents as severe as this, but she was like, we have done it before and we found it to be really effective. And I said, I believe it is, and yeah, like she was even saying, look, he's got no swelling, he's got no bruising. And I was like, yeah, I said, I swear I think it's the oils. And she was like, it probably is. Anyway, so after this, I was just reading through all these notes, so I'll just keep it nice and short. But the day we left the hospital, and I was just looking at these photos, I was given 14 drugs to go home with. And he'd literally only just come off all of his IV drugs that day. The 2 nights prior to his to us leaving, he'd woken up in the night with severe temperatures, high temperatures, and they had just given him drugs to bring the temperature down. But it was just because the machines were going off that we knew, like he wasn't waking up from it or anything like that. So we were waking him up and making sure he was okay and giving him drugs for his high temperatures. And so that night when we were going home, when he got off everything the next day, I was a little bit worried that he was going to have a really high temperature that night. So anyway, I was given these 14 different things. And so the day we got home, the Saturday, he came off his oxygen on the Friday night and we went home on the Saturday. It was the first time I made him a big soup for dinner, so we had that. But the trouble is because he'd been on drugs for so long, the stomach acid in his stomach was just so bad that every time he ate, he felt really, really sick. So they had actually given him a drug, a stomach protectant, to actually mask this symptom from happening, so that he could continue to eat and that he could continue to take all of these drugs without knowing the side effects that were really going on. Anyway, so he had all of his medication from the hospital that first night that I got home. But I made some really simple switches. So for the betadine gargle in the mouth, because what happened is because he had to have his face reconstructed here and up here, they had cut up into his jaw and opened up his mouth there, and they had cut under his eyelid and opened up his face like that, so that they were able to work in and reconstruct his face. And they also cut him to his nostril and opened it up through there, so that they were able to get in and reconstruct his face. And so he had all these open cuts that we were having to dress. So rather than using the Betadine's gargle, I went straight on to colloidal silver. You guys have heard me, there's some posts in the group, so you can search in the search bar whenever you want when you're looking for something. But yeah, colloidal silver is natural antibiotic, antiseptic, antifungal, kills bad pathogens, keeps good pathogens, and it's highly effective. So I had no problems in using that, because betadine gargle, we all know, is really just an antiseptic with toxins in. Yeah, we didn't give him any paracetamol when he left the hospital, because he had 3 different anti-inflammatories and 3 different painkillers. But yeah, on Monday, he woke up, he didn't have any painkillers, and he didn't have any antibiotics, and he didn't have any of his stomach protectant. So literally, 7 days after his surgery, I took him off every single drug, apart from Brain Act. And Brain Act is a brain drug, and I don't know a lot about it, but I did do research on it, because you can obviously Google the everything, and that's what I did. I Googled every single drug that he was on. I Googled the side effects. I looked up, I read about why they give it to them in the first place and the benefits of it, and then I look at the side effects. And so what I did is, the reason why they gave Brain Act is for severe head trauma, so it's almost to support seizures and things like that. So I knew that the brain damage was severe, and I wasn't, I felt confident doing all the other things. And I'll just mention, I didn't say to Sam, you're not taking any of the drugs, you've got to do this, this, and this. I said to Sam, how would you feel if I took you off the drugs, as I feel that you are capable of, and replaced it with an oil or a natural alternative? And he was like, that's okay. And I said, if you ever feel you need the drugs or anything's going wrong, you let me know and you can have them. And he was like, okay. So yeah, I kept him on the Brain Act drug until an extra, till Tuesday. And then I just didn't feel comfortable, because you know what I'm like with drugs anyway. But what I was able to do is, I was literally able to replace everything with one of the essential oils that I had already there. Now, some other things that I was using was this DDR Prime. And so this actually stands for damaged DNA reversal. So if we're looking at the DNA of our body, that's the makeup, that's the genetic makeup of our body. So we want to keep that as strong and healthy as possible at any given day of the year. And if our bodies are under stress or something severe has happened, then even more so. You can get this in an oil form. So I've got the both. I prefer to take oil, because I don't really take soft gels or capsules or anything, but if I need to, I will. I just choose not to. So I actually take DDR Prime myself, just like this, and I'll just use this either in rollers, or I'll use it on the soles of my feet before I go to bed if I feel like I need it. But because I take frankincense every day, which is great for cellular health, and it's an anti-inflammatory, and it's incredibly good for the nervous system, the brain, and the whole body, I don't really feel that I require taking DDR Prime all the time. But yeah, anyway, so he was taking these, so the DDR Prime. Now this is actually an incredible blend of oils. It's got, must be written in here. It's got frankincense, which we all know, anti-inflammatory, good for the brain. I won't spend too much on that one, because we do have a lot of content on the page and that. But that's amazing for everything. Hence the reason that I was lathering him in that morning, night, afternoon. If you are wanting to get the oils into the body at a rapid rate, I recommend putting them on the soles of the feet and up and down the spine, because the spine is like the pathway, the driveway to the body. So it literally goes straight into the spine, straight into the brain, straight into every cell of our body. The other thing is the biggest pores are in the soles of the feet. So if we use the soles of the feet as well, then that goes straight into our body as well. Now, they actually say that, using the soles of the feet for children is relatively safe because it's the least sensitive area. But remember, when you're working with children, it's always important to dilute. So if you're unsure about dilution rates, there's a dilution chart in the files section of this Facebook group. Okay, so this is made up of frankincense, wild orange, lemongrass, thyme, summer savory, cloves, and naioli. So those oils together are an absolute powerhouse for supporting the cellular health of the body, reducing oxidative stress. It's high in antioxidants. And I mean, there's not anything I don't think that those oils combined don't do. Anti-inflammatory, antifungal, antiseptic, antispasmodic, antiviral, antimicrobial, antibacterial, you name it. Thyme has got literally all of that in. So this is a great one to take if you know anybody that's got any sort of health condition, disease, anything, their cellular health needs a reboot. If you feel like you're feeling run down, you're feeling a bit lethargic, you just feel like a bit of a kick, I would even get a lot of this and take it and, just support your body that way. So I was using those on Sam as well. And once I took him off all the drugs, I'll just let you know briefly, because I do want to try and keep this to an hour so it's within everybody's, time frame of watching. But yeah, so what I was doing is the stomach protectant. So that was because of the acidity in the body. It was to mask the symptoms of the fact that he couldn't really eat. So what I was using in replace of that was ginger and spearmint. Now, Sam's never been a big one for taking oils internally, like just under the tongue. So I actually had veggie caps and I was putting them in there. So when he was having his drugs each day, like he would usually be having all of his, AM and PM drugs from the hospital, I had replaced those AM and PM drugs from the hospital with my own concoctions out of the oils and natural remedies. So the Brain Act drug, for that, I was using the DDR Prime. I was using frankincense and lavender literally across his head to absorb into his brain and across the back of his neck. I was using oregano and on guard and black pepper on the soles of his feet 4 or 5 times a day for immunity. He was also taking in a capsule form, he was also taking the On Guard. So we've got this On Guard oil and they actually do a soft gel. So he was taking the On Guard soft gel as well. For the anti-inflammatories, he was taking the DDR Prime, he was taking the high doses of black pepper oil, he was taking frankincense, and he was taking lemongrass. And I didn't know this, but I had lemongrass and I took it to the hospital and I was using it. I know lemongrass is good for fluid retention. So, if you've got fluid retention, for the heat or anything like that, that is a sign that your kidneys and stuff is not filtering effectively. So let me know if you require support in that department. But so I knew that, but I also went on to find out that lemongrass was incredible for supporting the brain. And I was like, no wonder I was drawn to it. So I was using that. For the painkillers, we were literally just using frankincense because that's the highest painkiller, as well as helichrysum, but I didn't have helichrysum with me at the time. The other thing that I was lucky enough to have was CBD oil. So that's cannabis oil, so cannabinoid. So it affects the cannabinoid system of the body. And what the cannabinoid system of the body does is that actually enables that our own natural healing conductors within our body to kickstart. So you guys have all been hearing about that copaiba oil, and that's why there's all that hype around that, because that copaiba oil contains the CB1, I think, and so it's incredible for supporting this healing mechanism within our body. And frankincense crosses the blood-brain barrier, so I knew that I was doing that right. But cannabis oil is incredible for the cellular health and pain relief, anti-inflammatory, muscle relaxant, you name it. And what had happened is, of course, everything works for a reason. Don Tolman just so happened to have, which was illegal over in Bali, some CBD oil. Now, it wasn't the THC, so it wasn't the one that makes you high, but it actually was just the CBD oil. And so he was just that one of the days at our retreat, he was like, does anyone want some CBD oil? And I was like, yeah, I do. And I thought, well, why do I? I don't need it. Like, I'm not in any pain and no one I know has. And I didn't even think at the time, but I probably would have been too paranoid to take it back on the plane anyway. But I was like, yeah, I'll take some. And he was like, okay, here you go, Dana. And I was like, of course I got that CBD oil because I got it for Sam. So yeah, Sam was taking in honey, because I was giving him some honey as well. And honey, he was having CBD oil for pain relief, his brain, muscles relaxation, and you name it. A couple of days after his accident, he was also having bad dreams, and I believe it was memories of the accident. So he was waking up in the night really, really scared. And so what I was doing is I was putting vetiver, lavender, frankincense, and juniper berry on the soles of his feet before he went to sleep every night, and just lathering it on him, because juniper berry is the oil of the night, very good for bad dreams, very good for overactive mind, very good for sleep, and also really good for just calming the mind at night. And vetiver also is very good for sleep and relaxation of the body as well. So I replaced his eye drops with colloidal silver as well. So instead of the toxic eye drops from the hospital, he was having colloidal silver in his eyes. Instead of the antiseptic cream, I was using frankincense oil and coconut oil, literally on the open wounds. I think that's about it. And so ever since that day forward, he didn't use any single drugs. And long story short, because this has ended up being massive, but the point of the story is that I believe that was supporting me in my understanding of everything that I have spent my life learning. So, this life, holistic health and natural medicine and that sort of thing is not just something that I started last year. I actually started investing my energy in it when I was 9 years old, when my granddad died from gangrene from smoking. And it was when we were little. And so, we were around there every day, and Granny couldn't walk, and we'd go there for soup, and we'd sit there, and Mum would roll him cigarettes so he could keep smoking. And then we just watched him die. And I found that really hard. And that from that day forward, I was like, I want to learn how we can live forever so that I never have to see anyone around me die. And that's where my journey started. And I truly believe that, we're all put on this earth for a reason and a purpose. And mine is clearly this, because I wouldn't have spent my whole life investing every second of my day in this way of life. And so that's why I just trusted in myself. And so what I invite you to do is just to start experimenting with these oils, because I can't even explain how amazing they are. If you currently use any painkillers, or you currently use any creams for skin conditions, or you currently use, cough lozenges, or you currently take cough syrup, or you currently go to the doctor and get cold and flu tablets if you're ever sick, or you currently, the list goes on. If you currently take a drug every day for something, I want you to know that you've actually got a replacement with all of these oils. And that's the incredible thing. And so that's why I wanted to start these, these monthly seminars. It's just as a free service to share with you and empower you more on this way of life. Because I really know that, like for me in eating, say for example, I love food, and for me to whip up something in the kitchen takes me 2 seconds. It's so easy, and I don't think twice about it. And people always like to me, oh, you should do this with your food, you should do that with your food, rah, rah, rah. But it took me years of my life to even acknowledge that what I could do with food was different than anybody else. I went through my whole life thinking that everyone could just do this, and so I'm almost a bit like that with oils. I just think, well, everyone knows that oils are amazing. Everyone knows that oils can replace toxic medicine and toxic drugs in the household. And everybody knows that you can improve your quality of your life using essential oils. But then I'm like, no, actually, Dana, they don't. So that's why I'm here to support you in understanding all of this, because I would love you to empower you to just to start, doing your research. That's why I shared at the start, we talked about resources so that you've got all of these tools available, because I have dedicated my life to this, but just by you dedicating your personal questions to this, you're going to learn what you need. And I sometimes say to people oh, I just don't know. And I'm just start with the smallest thing. Have your diffuser going in the house during the day, because you don't know, just that smell supports you in more ways than you could even imagine. It, have a drop in your water in the morning just to wake you up and energize your body and stimulate the cells and get you going, use it as a perfume, and you can just smell it and you smell nice, and just these simple little starts, you'll be like, oh wow, I didn't know it was that easy. And that's all it takes, is these sort of simple, realizations that, wow, you can do this. So I guess that I took the that me helping Sam with these oils as a sign from the universe that this is my, I require supporting other people and understanding this power, because, I truly believe it's incredible. And the thing is we went back to the doctor, the brain surgeon, and you should see the scan of his brain. It's our skull is just flat like this, right? But he's got just a big hole in his skull. They haven't even reattached it flat. So he's literally just got a chunk of his skull missing. And they are a little bit worried about that, because the fact that mucosal lining and fluid can come and go. So they think, but they're just keeping an eye on it. They've done an MRI scan 3 months ago. They'll do one now, and they'll see if there's anything sort of going on in there that, maybe they need to address it. But the brain surgeon said, I have got no idea how you have not had an infection. He was he couldn't believe it, because he said that his half of his nasal cavity, we've both got these big naval cavities here, half of his is caved in, it's not reconstructed, so that already inhibits the airflow and the natural function of the body anyway. But I use Cellubel oil, so that's the beauty care blend that's got all your best oils in, your rose, your lavender, your frankincense, your helichrysum. I used helichrysum a lot when we got home as well, and I think that's what got us through, because helichrysum is the oil of pain. So he did say to me one day, oh my God, my shoulder is so sore, I need a painkiller. And I was like, okay, let's just try helichrysum. We'll rub it on your shoulder, and I also put heaps of other pain relief oils on him, and I gave him a morphine shot, which is 5 drops of frankincense, 5 drops of oregano in a capsule. I gave him that, and I said, wait 10 minutes and see how you feel. And he said, I don't need that painkiller anymore. So, I was just like, that's amazing, because the doctors couldn't believe it. But the greatest thing is that, I didn't tell him I used the oils or anything. But who knows? Like, Sam's literally fine. He has nothing wrong with him, apart from the fact that he feels like he has a little nerve damage in his arm from his broken clavicle, which is probably normal, and that he doesn't have a lot of feeling in his face, which is normal, and that he's also got double vision when he looks up and when he looks down. But the thing is that other than that, he's got nothing wrong with him. And since day 8 after his surgery, he didn't have one single toxic drug. And the thing is that I often think back on that, because imagine if he had have carried on taking those drugs, because we know that drugs are toxic and they deteriorate the health of our body. They destroy our liver, they destroy our kidney function, they destroy the gut microbiome, which is essential, which is vital for our immune system. They destroy the cellular health of our body, because they're a toxin. They're destroying cells, they're not regenerating cells. So I was just like, we need to get him off these drugs as soon as possible. Of course, in the hospital under a serious condition like he was in, I wasn't going to say, right guys, no drugs, no IV, he's in ICU, but we're just not going to give him anything. You know, so I let him away with it that time, but that's it. No. But yeah, so it turns out that at 7:30, I have spent the whole time sharing a story. But I hope that you guys got a lot of tips out of that, because, you know, as I said, I'm wanting to set this up for an ongoing thing throughout the year. So, you know, I know that a lot of people will end up watching this back that, you know, are new to the oils. And so I do want to start at the basics and just sort of give an understanding of, you know, the power of these oils and how you can get to know them better in your life, and then the simple ways to use them. So don't forget, you do have this group, and it's an incredible resource, because we've already talked about so much in here. We've shared so much information. There's been so many testimonials and everything. So you can literally just type in the search bar anything that you want: headache, cough, cold, brain surgery, you know, black cell, colloidal silver, natural remedies, and there's all sorts of information there for you. I know this is completely out of the norm, and in no way, shape or form am I ever going to be one to condone supporting your body to heal through toxic drugs. But I do understand that at some time they're required. So, you know, if any time you require support getting off them, or supporting your body through them and then using the oils as an alternative, this is an incredible space to come, because you've got the support of everyone here. But yeah, this is your space to get to know your oils. If you do have a friend, a family member, somebody that you know that's interested, by all means add them to this group. Just let them know it's about essential oils, and they will get bombarded with essential oils, natural health and alternative remedies. But if that's what they're into, they're more than welcome to join us. And yeah, ultimately the goal is, and doTERRA's motto is to have a healer in every home. And that is to empower every single person, one person in every single household to take control of health naturally. Because we all know that, you know, the health of people is on the decline, and the more we stay in the system of drugs in the medical world, it's never going to get any better. So, yeah, please share your experiences. Please share everything that you've, you know, that's happening with you. Ask questions. Join in as much as you can, and by all means, share the oils with those closest to you. People do say to me, oh, you know, I'll just buy the oils for my friend or my mum. And, you know, I had my cousin here today, and she loved them and she wants to get them. And she's like, oh, I'll buy them with you, Cuzzy. And I was like, well, you could, and that would be great, but it's not ideal, because I've got to talk to you about when I'm going to order. I've got to place your order with it. I've got to get your money. I've got to wait till I see you again. I've got to organise an hour and a half to drop it off, you or me. It's not, you know, you can pay $7.50, $7.95 to get an oil delivered a month. You get your points back, you start collecting them, and I believe that's more beneficial, because, I mean, who doesn't want to be getting some products for free? And, you know, she's a single mum with 3 young kids. I'm not going to say, I'm not going to say, here, I'll do you a disservice by buying them and you not get all the benefits. And she was like, wow, that's awesome. So I loved that, sharing that with her, because she can afford $20 a month. We did the budget. She knows it's within the reason, and that she knows that she's going to be doing a great deal of benefits to her family by having access to these oils. So, I just think, regardless of the situation, regardless of the person, if they're interested in this way of life or learning more to improve it, then by all means, let them know what you know and what you have access to. I'm just going to unmute you all now, see if there's any questions. Thank you so much for listening to me talk non-stop for 1 hour. Does anyone have any questions or anything? It can be about anything.
I do have a couple of questions, like normal.
Yeah.
I just want to ask a couple of things about the oils. In the diffusers, do you just use tap water, or are you using a desalinated water, or what are you using?
Well, that's a really good question, actually, because it has actually been brought up in the group before, but my belief is that tap water isn't good for us. It contains fluoride and it contains chlorine, which is two toxins. Fluoride is a neurotoxin, which numbs the pituitary gland, which is responsible for our mood, regulating our hormones, our endocrine system. It's crucial. And so if we're putting a toxin into our body every single day that's destroying the natural function of our body, then I think that it's quite dangerous. So that's why I've got a water filter, and I do recommend using filtered water in the diffuser, because we get to remember that when that's diffusing, that's going into the air and we're literally breathing that into our respiratory tract. So that's actually absorbing into our body. So yeah, that's my belief.
Water?
Pardon?
Boiled water okay, or is that taking all the minerals out of it then?
Well, it doesn't matter about minerals or anything, because we're not drinking it. So if you're boiling it, you're putting it in the diffuser. So yeah, I would say boil it, or if you've got some form of filtration system. If you don't already, it might be something that you'd like to look into, or you can even go to some good markets around the community, and you can actually buy big 15 or 20 litre things that you can just exchange each week, and then that way that you've got good quality water.
And for the oils, for putting them on your body or sprays or things like that, rollers and your spray bottles, where do you purchase them from?
eBay is the best bet. That's a good one, just to type in the search bar. Just put rollers or stock. Everyday Miracle, write that down. That is in this group here, but Everyday Miracle has some stock. Otherwise, I seriously just find eBay to be the best. You can get good quality stuff from around. One tip I would advise is always use glass, and always try and use amber, because the clear oxidizes the oils at a rapid rate. So if we can get dark, it's better. And then the last thing is that you want a stainless steel roller on the top of your rollers, because the plastic ones or the other ones, they're not very effective. They're quite hard to use, I've learned over time. So look for a stainless steel and amber colour or darker colour, and you can get some cheap ones on eBay and stuff. Excellent.
One more, fractionated coconut oil. Like, I know where I can find it now, but I was at the organic shop on the weekend, and he told me that this was the same as it, which is cold pressed coconut oil. It is, again, it's hard. It's not oil. It's not runny like the fractionated coconut oil. So I can't use this, can I?
No. So yeah, he doesn't quite know what he's talking about by the sounds of things, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's very helpful though.
But very nice. They tend to be very helpful. No, just joking. So I would recommend buying it from the supermarket. You can get it in the oil section. It's in a long glass bottle.
I've seen it now, yeah.
Absolutely, that's the one. You can use that oil though. I recommend if you want to make like a really basic balm, what you can do is you can put 2 tablespoons of hard setting coconut oil in a glass jar, and say you've got muscular pain or something, you can put say 3 tablespoons of coconut oil and then 10 drops of frankincense, peppermint and ice blue for adults. Mix that around, and if you've got say a sore shoulder or a pulled muscle, you can literally just get that out and rub that on, you know, morning and night or something like that. You can also make your own Vicks like that. But just if you're making it in sprays and in rollers, you want to make sure it's fractionated, otherwise it will set.
Okay. Thank you.
My pleasure. Any other questions there, ladies?
I like to add that to the dog ones.
Hello. Okay, well, I'm going to finish that